I absolutely hate PC cable management, so thankfully Corsair's engineered a case where you don't really need to bother with it, so we can go about PC building without any of the not so fun parts. But before we get to that part, we need to start off with the processor, and we've gone with the Ryzen 9 7900X, purely because it's the most powerful AM5 CPU I've got on hand, and it's also a fantastic chip whether you're gaming or content creating. I would personally like an X3D CPU, like a 7800 X3D, but I don't have one, so this will have to suffice for today. Luckily, it's got 12 cores and 24 threads, which is perfectly fine for gaming. In fact, it's more than enough for what you need. And it also slots into our X870E with ease. This is a perfect motherboard for a CPU like this, as it's got a absolute ton of features, which you can watch in a video which will be up there or there when we went over it. Anyways, it suits this PC build perfectly. And we're going to be populating 2 of the DDR5 DIMM slots with Kingston Fury 6000 mega transfers, CL30 RGB memory. Yeah, I got that one right. Anyways, for a gaming build, this is the sweet spot, especially for Zen 4, as you won't be pushing the memory controller too hard, and most chips should be able to pose with these expo settings, and you'll be getting very good performance with a memory kit like this. If you're content creating, however, I do recommend a 64GB kit, as 32 gigs is not very fun. I tried editing with that amount of RAM recently and it really wasn't a great experience, so I'd definitely go with 64 gigs if that's you. However, if you're just gaming, 32 gigs is totally fine. We are picking some rather power hungry parts for this build, so we're going to need a bit of a power plant of a PSU. Thankfully, the RM1000X shift is more than enough for a PC build like this, and it's also especially special because it has a side connect for the modular cables, and as this is going to be a testing PC, ease of maintenance and swapping these out is going to be super helpful. And it also ties in with our cable management theme, where you don't really need to cable manage them as much. Drum roll, and we're on to the case. This is, like I said at the start, the Frame 5000D from Corsair, and so far building in this case has been a top 3 PC building experience of all time for me, purely because the cable management is so easy. If you're like me and you absolutely don't like doing it, you kind of don't have to, because this case has got these covers which are removable with one screw, where it just hides your shoddy cable management job like I've done in this PC. But because of the aforementioned covers, you can't see it from the front, which is what matters, because out of sight equals out of mind, and you just kind of forget about it. But yeah, as you've probably seen from the B-roll right now, it's not a bad looking PC if I don't say so myself. But there's one last part, the most important one for a PC build, and that's the graphics card. We're going with the Founders Edition RTX 3080. This is my ye old faithful, so to speak. I've been rocking this thing for many years now, and since I got my GPU upgrade, it's kind of sat in its box, so I thought, let's put it in a PC build, and it's also the most powerful graphics card that I've got spare, and I think it suits a build like this, and in fact, this is exactly what I used to run about a few months ago. And aesthetically, I mean, like, come on, the RTX 30 series Founders Edition cards look absolutely phenomenal. The 3080 is still by far the best looking graphics card I personally own, and even if we had something like a 3090 in this PC, it might even look slightly better because it's a 3-slot card and it would fill out the build a bit more. Anyways, I know a GPU like this, which uses like 320 watts, is not going to be overheating, because the Frame 5000D has 3 140mm fans up front, and more importantly, for some of you people out there, you don't need IQ to control them. The RGB is hooked up via 3-pin addressable RGB headers, so you can control this through your motherboard software, for instance, which is a huge win in my opinion. Less software running on your PC is a win. And the top also supports 3 140mm fans as well, but we've populated it with a 360mm AIO. In particular, the MSI MPG P13. This cooler is very unique. In the CPU block, it has a screen which you can use to display system information like GPU usages, temperatures, clock speeds, and this goes across the CPU and memory as well, which is kind of cool. It's not make or break, but It's one of those wow factors for your PC, and by being a 360mm cooler, it keeps the temperatures well under control on our 7900X, which is great to see. So with all that hardware in the case, this is the final build, and to be honest, I think it's one of the better ones I've done here on the channel. It's very stealthy and very clean, yet it's still got quite a bit of RGB. Like I've said in the past, if you set your RGB to a theme like the lovely yellow we've got here, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. But of course, all of this is addressable RGB, so if you wanted all the flashy colours to look like a 90s nightclub, yeah, that's also a possibility for you. But looks aside, what is the performance like? And to be honest, this PC is really not a bad performer thanks to the RTX 3080 and 7900X. And to start off the benchmarks, we've gone with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and on the Ultra preset at 1440p, we're getting quite a lot of performance at 74 FPS on average with 61 for the 1% lows. Naturally, having an RTX 3080 means we can enable DLSS at 1440p and get virtually no quality loss, and yeah, we'll get a bit more performance as well, so that's a huge win right there. Cyberpunk 2077 doesn't really need any of this because on the Ultra preset, we're getting around 86 FPS on average with a 1% low of 65, so there's absolutely zero problems there. I'll probably just leave it on the Ultra preset, to be honest. And in fact, in the past, I've enabled ray tracing with DLSS set to quality, and it still gets on perfectly fine. Next up is Stalker 2 on the high preset. This is the only game today to get below 60 FPS, but it's Stalker 2, what can you expect? Anyways, it's not that far below 60 at 56 FPS, and the 1% low is okay at 40. Admittedly, this isn't the best PC port, and you could always enable DLSS and you'll get a better frame rate as well. Going into Fortnite though, on DirectX 11 on the medium preset, and performance here is, it's fine. Like if you've got a 240Hz monitor, you're going to be set. 273 FPS, great. 1% low at 176, also great, so no problems here. The Oblivion remaster, if you set it down to the high preset instead of Ultra, nets you quite a bit more performance, and we've got zero problems on a PC like this. 78 FPS on average is very good, and 60 for the 1% low means the frame time is not causing any problems here, and these are probably the settings I'd leave it at. Indiana Jones hard requires ray tracing, so it's a good job we've got an RTX 3080, and yeah, the performance is, well, suiting this graphics card at 119 FPS on average, which is very good, and the 1% low at 96 is also fantastic. The frame time is looking good here. We were using around 10 gigabytes of VRAM, at least that's what the game was calling for, so it's very close with the 10 gigs of frame buffer on this GPU, but I think you'll be okay as long as you've used DLSS set to quality. So performance as a whole really isn't bad on a system like this, and I could personally use a system like this for gaming. However, productivity, which I haven't included in today's video, is a different story. You definitely need to up that RAM to at least 64 gigabytes in my opinion. Depending on what you're doing, video editing requires quite a bit of RAM. Other than that though, yeah, the 3080 is still getting on brilliantly. This GPU, if Nvidia gave it a bit more VRAM, I'd say it'd still be a lot more relevant today, even though the used pricing on this GPU is looking pretty good these days. But let's not get distracted by that, because building in the Frame 5000D was one of the best experiences I've ever had while building a PC, and I'm not just saying that because Corsair sent out the case. They're not paying me to make this video, they've only sent out the hardware, and I do get to keep it, and it's a good job because I'm going to be using this in my testing PC for, well, the foreseeable future. So if you're like me and you don't like doing cable management, I cannot blame you for that at all. I highly recommend checking out the Corsair Frame 5000D. It's a pretty affordable case at around £125 without the RGB and around £150 with the RGB fan. So if you want to check it out, it'll be linked in the description down below. Anyways, if you want to see how the RTX 3080 gets on by itself in a more sophisticated benchmarking video, you can watch this one up here. It's a bit old now, but it's still pretty relevant. But other than that, I'll catch you in the next one.